This is my recap of The Private Lives of Nashville Wives, Season 1, Episode 6, To Tell the Truth. So once again, I need to reiterate that you should be talking about this show. So you can be on ZBox with me and chatting, or on Twitter, or both by tweeting through ZBox. And on Monday nights, they have kind of competitions, and a ton of people on my Twitter list have won prizes, including me. So I won... This is from Betty's Company that we saw a couple episodes ago, or last episode, or whenever it was. And I just went on a wonderful vacation with my husband, and I wore this all the time because I felt a little more secure. My wallet couldn't fall out of my pocket and all that. And so it's super awesome. It's got a little fancy, stuff. Anyway, that's just my little plug. And thank you so much, Betty. I love it. So we open up with Sarah going over to Tina's fabulous closet and picking out some clothes to borrow. So I haven't figured out totally what the deal is with Tina. On the website and the TNT app, she's listed, as a cast member. She's there for all of the big events like the fashion show, the girls' night out, this road trip, all that stuff. But she doesn't have credit in the opening sequence. So I haven't quite figured out where she is because she's awesome and I wish I saw more of her. Now, everybody, including Tina, except for Sarah, because once again, Sarah's kind of doing her own thing. So we'll see her like 3 times this episode. But everybody else is going to Anna's for Truth or Dare. Now, I watch this show with my husband. I have my shows and he has his shows, and a few of them I'll watch his shows with him and he'll watch with me. And this is one of the shows he will watch. There's, just enough guns and guitars to where I can kind of convince him there's something for him. And the women don't scream through the whole episode. So he'll watch this with me. It's still clearly my show. But he was totally shocked by the fact they were doing Truth or Dare. He's like, this is not going to end well. And there were a couple really shocking questions. So most of them were pretty typical girl stuff. Describe your favorite sexual position with the carnival game and stuff like that. But there was one question that I was like, my husband and I were both pretty shocked they asked, which is, if you had to make out with someone else's husband, who would it be? And my husband and I were like, this is a wildly inappropriate question. This isn't silly. This isn't girls' time. This is like super inappropriate. And I wouldn't have answered either. No way. No way. It would really hurt my husband's feelings a great deal. And I would be furious if he was like, oh yeah, I'd sleep with your friend so-and-so. So I kind of didn't get that. But I need to address this kind of 2 different issues. One, although I agree that particular question I wouldn't have answered either, Erica also didn't want to talk about her drinking, even though she's brought it up before. She didn't want to talk anything with sex. She didn't want to talk about this. She didn't want to talk about that. Now, I respect in real life when I have friends if they don't want to discuss something. And even though you're on a reality show, I do believe that there are certain things that people on reality shows can still say, I don't want to discuss. But you got to kind of pick and choose your battles, because if you keep saying that, which is what Erica keeps doing, is saying, I don't want to talk about this, I don't want to talk about that, I think the viewers kind of disengage, because you're like, okay, I know nothing about you. I don't want to constantly hear no, no, no. Which is, I kind of think is that line that Erica's walking on. So maybe reality shows are not the best fit for her. I'm not, I don't know. So there's that. There was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember what it is. Anyway, we see Sarah hitting the road, and everyone else gets into a bus and drives. Now, right off the bat, Jenny kind of gets into it with Erica because Erica has a I Heart Adoption t-shirt. I don't have a problem with it. I thought Jenny was making mountains out of molehills. I think with that whole thing, because she went on and on about how, well, if I did adoption, I do it this way and that way. Okay, hold the phones. Everybody has the right to make their family in the way that they deem is appropriate for them and their partner, or for themselves. That for some people that means only going natural, for some people that's IVF, so for some people that's adoption, in the country, out of the country, whatever it is. I don't know that anybody should be throwing stones. I think that whole interaction was Jenny not liking Erica and kind of picking at Erica because she doesn't like her. And I understand that when someone annoys you, everything they do annoys you. Everything becomes this huge issue with how could they do this, and this says this, and that, and this, and that, and this. And that's what I think that was, because I like Jenny. I don't think she's always right by any means, but I don't have a problem with her. As long as she didn't have a problem with me, I think she'd be pretty cool. Anyway, we see Sarah. She's sad. She misses Dallas. Back to the bus. So they kind of turn to Betty and they say, hey, you have this long relationship. Kind of give us some advice. And she kind of gives, I really genuinely feel awful for her because she basically says, you don't make a big deal when they fool around. And everybody else in the bus is like, huh? So Anna, her twin, is sort of like, oh yeah, we're Latin, doesn't bother us. But I think it does kind of bother Betty. And she goes on to say how one day she hopes she's happy. And I'm like, oh, girl, you gave me a wallet. I really like you. Like, I feel awful for you. You gave me this wallet that makes me so happy, and then you find out that she's so sad, and I'm like, oh, I should go send a thank you card or something, like I want to send her cookies or something. That's just so sad. And I feel really genuinely bad for her, and I kind of worried that I wonder if there's going to be some fallout from her publicly stating that he's fooled around. So that kind of makes me sad. And somehow that segues into Jenny kind of turning on both Erica and Cassie and saying that both of them are fakers, fakersons, which really confused me because I think Cassie and Erica have shown themselves to be two wildly different people. They've had interactions with people. They're not always together doing the same thing. They've had their own individual interactions with everyone. So I thought it was really bizarre that everyone was lumping them in together. First off, that was one part. And then Betty kind of got into it, turned on Jenny, and she's like, you're more or less, she said, more or less you're bullying. You don't like what someone says, and so you just say that's not right. Because they were kind of saying like, I'm sorry, that's who I am. I wouldn't do that. I'm sorry, you dislike me for what that is. Now, what's interesting is that Jenny later on talks to, everyone gets off the bus and is so glad to be off the bus. Jenny talks with Sarah, and Jenny tells the story of the bus ride, but she skips the first half of the story. So instead of starting out with the part about Jenny turning on Erica and Cassie and calling them inauthentic and fakers, she kind of starts with Betty jumping in and saying that Jenny was being mean. So I'm kind of like, hold on, Jenny. You kind of left out half the story, and it was a pretty important half of the story. But we do find that Jenny's kind of sensitive to that, that she knows she's abrasive. This is an area that she's working on, and I can respect that. I can really respect that situation. Now we go to the concert. We see the concert. There we go. Afterwards, Anna goes off to party because she's the only single lady, more or less, and everybody else goes back to Jenny's room to kind of hang out. And everyone's kind of talked here and there about their feelings. And Betty comes in and kind of tells Jenny, you're this big person. And Jenny kind of gets offended. I realize, I think Jenny might think that she's bigger than the other girls, physically heavier, which completely baffled me because that was not my impression of Jenny's personal appearance. I mean, to me, what Betty was saying is that Jenny's taller. She's very physically confident in the way she carries herself. And that makes you a bigger than life. You become physically intimidating. And I understand what that is because I've had, when I coached and I was super comfortable on my range, that was my domain. No one else used it. It was completely me, and I did this job for 10 years, and I was super confident in my abilities. And sometimes students would be like, man, you're really intimidating. Because I would crack jokes and stuff, and sometimes they wouldn't know if I was joking, and I'd really scare them. And I'd be like, dude, I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time or something. And they just said I was physically very intimidating, even though I'm not horribly tall. And I think that's what Betty was expressing to Jenny, is that Jenny is very intimidating, and she's a larger than life presence, and she's a big personality, and she carries a lot of confidence. But Jenny kind of took it like Betty called her fat, which was just bizarre to me because that's not how I see Jenny at all. So that was surprising. But it did seem like both Jenny and Betty were trying to kind of make some overtures of friendship, or at least maybe not friendship, maybe that's too strong a word, maybe just okay, we're all going to be fine by getting pizza for Erica. But then I guess Erica drank some, and she's not a pretty drinker. I mean, when I say pretty, it was really kind of bizarre. She was kind of getting up in everyone's face and, oh, look at me, I'm eating. Oh, look at me, I'm drinking. Look at me. And it was just really I mean, I remember, I think it sums it up as Tina's looking at her like she's lost her mind. So yeah, so that was really awkward, really uncomfortable. And there you go. That is my summary of the episode.